unconditionally. And our contention is that the bank's imposition of a fee for the encashment establishes a condition which in turn breach the provisions of the Bills of Exchange Act as it regards to a negotiable instrument, which a check qualifies as. That is fundamental.
You are saying, so Mr. Jackson, for clarity, the Bills of Exchange Act that has been in commission for all these years. So are you saying, therefore, that banks have been illegally taking funds from customers by paying for checks?
Correct. And that's the basis of the lawsuit. That the charging of that fee establishes now a condition and changes the definition of a negotiable instrument as provided for that in that bill. What the judge ruled while making a reference to the Bills of Exchange Act, the full brunt of the judgment today was based on the Banking Services Act, and which was not the basis of my lawsuit.
If I may, Member Jackson, is it?
Sure.
Aren't the check leave? Isn't it issued by the bank?
Correct.
So if it's issued by the bank, are you saying that even though they are the issuer, they still charge for each leave?
Well, they charge the per account holder which is a customer of theirs, a fee for that. But they went and do a double dip and say the person to whom you make that check have to pay a fee to collect the amount that you say that the bank should pay on your behalf. Now, that is manifestly unfair and unjust. But that's not the crux of the lawsuit.
What's the crux?
The crux of the lawsuit is that the prevailing act legislation that defines a check as a negotiable instrument, the charging of a fee is a breach of that law.
Oh yeah?
That is the gravamen of this lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
The judge's ruling is based on the Banking Services Act that has promulgated a code of conduct that says banks can charge a fee for miscellaneous services that they provide, including that of encashment. But we must trace the genesis of this practice of encashment fee.
Yes, go ahead.
First of all, before I proceed to that, what was interesting in the judgment? The judgment basically says that BNS is not BNS everywhere in Jamaica at all its branches. BNS where your check is issued, or the account where the account from which your check was issued, is different from all other branches. And branch from which a check was issued is the issuing bank, and the bank that you go to collect is a collecting bank. So a bank, each, the license and all the rest of them, it's one banking license, one operator with multiple points of operations. Because what a branch is, is the branch is basically saying to the public, you can come to us, Bank A, at all these different points for your convenience. So if you open an account at one branch, you're not opening at 10 or 20 different branches, at 10 or 20 different banks. You're opening at the same bank with multiple points.
Different location, right.
But the ruling is saying that no, each branch is like an entity of itself that can enter into a separate contract to determine the charging of a fee. Take to its logical conclusion. A branch in Montego Bay of the same bank can charge a different fee from one in Linstead or one in Morant Bay.
So if I'm getting you, let me use another analogy. There is a franchise in Jamaica called KFC. So you're saying the ruling is saying that a KFC in Kingston can charge a separate price from a KFC in Montego Bay, but it's still one franchise?
Well, I don't believe that's a good analogy. I tell you what.
Not an analogy at all.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a good analogy because in the case of the bank, once you enter...
Let me tell you a better analogy. Tell me if I'm wrong. Meaning KFC, Burger King, Tasties, they are all food service provider. Am I on the right path, Mr.?
Yes.
However, based on the license that them get for food service, them can charge any amount that they wish to charge. You get where I'm coming from? So that is what is happening. Everybody have the same license in the banking industry. NCB, Scotia, BM, all of them have them different charges.
That is basically what the ruling would imply. That they each brand, well, each different entity can do their own thing, but in the specific case, it is treating each branch of the same entity is a separate entity by itself, in that it's a collecting entity of the fees, and they can enter into a separate contract by themselves. That, for me and our team, is totally unacceptable. And that's one of the points that we will make too, no doubt, with the guidance of our legal team when we go to make an appeal. What that ruling is also saying, if someone has an account in Marot Bay at BNS and draw your check based on their account in Marot Bay, and you are living in Negril or Montego Bay, for you not to pay a fee, you have to travel, go to St. Thomas. And what I find very interesting, the basis of establishing the bona fide of the check and whether it fulfills the requirements for encashment, what they call presentment in legal term, is the same platform that is used in all the branches across the country, because it's an electronic exercise rather than a physical exercise. So the branch in Marot Bay can look on the same information as the one in St. James. But yet, the ruling is saying, no, they are separate entities, and by extension, they can impose their own charges for such an encashment. That I have a challenge with, and operationally, from a reasonable standpoint, and also in terms of the provision of the law. Because when the Bank of Jamaica grants a banking license to a bank, it doesn't give multiple licenses.
Right.
It gives one license to that one entity. And in the Banking Services Act, it authorizes, and the Banking Act, it allows for that licensee to operate multiple branches. So they don't have to make separate application for each location they're operating. They just have one application which is approved, and you have to maintain the standards that is granted to the one licensee that has been approved. So there goes another example of the inconsistencies and just the impracticality of the ruling. And we wish to make that clear to a higher court when the time comes. Notwithstanding the outcome today of that fee, one of the positives, if I might say so, out of this lawsuit is that subsequent to the filing of the suit and the points raised in the suit and the presentations, BNS has since around July or April, sometime last year, terminated the application of encashment fees. And
what about the other banks? Because I'm sure NCB did raise some fees.
I believe their other banks are still continuing. But also too, while I'm on that point, I might share with you that subsequent to tabling that bill in Parliament regarding that range of fees that are being charged. I had recognized that one other fee, which was a breach of an existing legislation, was the dormancy fee.
Dormancy, that means that when your bank, your account, now have no money on it.
No. Dormancy fee, if you have $1 million in the account.
Oh, and you don't use the account for a while, then you can charge the account.
They deem it to be dormant and penalizing you for not going in and out of your account.
Oh,
no, you know. Yes. You know. The average Jamaican use a bank to keep your money safely, to put it away. And the banking laws gives the banks, deposit-taking institution, the authority and the privilege to use that money in deposit for investments, which is to make loans, to lend other persons. Yet, the bank is penalizing you for giving them the money to use to make money for themselves.
Interesting.
But the genesis of that, I had subsequently found out. In the Banking Services Act, you will see from time to time this advertisement in the newspapers with a whole list of accounts and tell persons that, if you are one of these account holders, then you need to come to the bank because those are accounts for which there's no activity for the past 15 years.
Yes.
The law says when an account remains dormant for up to 15 years, one, they have to run the ad to advise the depositors publicly. And if nobody turns up to acknowledge their deposit in the account, the banks are obliged to turn those monies over to the accountant general. And it goes into the consolidated fund. What the banks decided to do, they never felt pleased that they were turning over all of these monies to the consolidated fund. So what they impose a dormancy fee which gradually erodes.
So money.
It's a smaller amount. They have to
so they skim off some off at the top because they must
you are right on point. So it was a skimming operation to reduce the amount that they have to turn over. Because remember, while the money is sitting in the bank, they have use of it. The non-activity on our account does not prohibit the bank from lending that money as part of their reserve. So they are benefiting from it. Yet you are penalizing the account holder.
Quick question. How long though would they consider an account to be dormant?
He said it's 15 years.
15 years, okay.
No, a little bit of qualification needed here. 15 years apply for the period of dormancy that they have to turn it over to the accountant general.
Okay,
however, through a code of conduct provision subsequent to the Banking Services Act in 2014, I think the dormancy period is defined to be either 6 months or 2 years for it to be deemed to be dormant. But it doesn't speak to anything about application of fees, just for the designation as being an inactive account.
Yes.
Or otherwise a dormant account. You can begin to treat it as dormant as of that specified period in the code of conduct provisions by the central bank. So they have what they did, is that imposing the dormancy fee. If you have, for argument's sake, $20,000.
Yes.
And they apply $500 every month. Each year, 12 times 500, that's $6,000.
Out of the 20,000.
Gone already for them.
So within 5 years, that's 5 times 6. That's $30,000.
$30,000.
So you owe them 10,000.
You're in a minus now. If after those years you come in and put $100,000, they take out that minus amount.
10,000, yes.
Because they're saying you owe them for having nothing in your account.
Mighty God.
That was what prevailed with the dormancy fee. However, when I recognize what was happening there, and that it was a breach of the existing act, Section 36 of the Banking Services Act, I publicly announced that I was going to take out a lawsuit against them. Within 2 weeks,
yes,
they all suspended the dormancy fee. So since 2018, they have stopped charging the dormancy fee, from which they have collected billions of dollars.
Wow.
In my opinion, illegally, and you know how we treat illegal income in this country. It's deemed to be ill-gotten.
Illicit enrichment.
Hey! All the bank them Uncle Fitzy. All the bank them are do illicit enrichment.
Integrity Commission can't find them too.
All it doesn't apply to banks, the public servants, the Integrity Commission. So all of those fees that would have been collected illegally would have been ill-gotten gains or illegally collected fees. And the government of the day close their eyes and say, okay, banks, do whatever you want to do.
Wow.
You know, if a man was accustomed to rob the gas station at the grocery store down the road, and over 1 year or 2 years, they would have robbed $10 million. The fact that they have stopped robbing the man, meaning illegally taking his money away, does not mean that the money that he has took before belongs to him.
It's not right.
Because he took it illegally.
So
this government has never gone to the court since I've raised this matter for over 9 years now.
Whoa.
To seek a judicial
review
to establish the legality of these.
Yeah, but they're seeking judicial, a particular man seeking judicial review against the Integrity Commission.
Call him such man. Just say such man.
It shows the priorities of this government.
It shows what the priorities of the government is, whose interest it is prepared to use the courts to protect, and whose interest it is prepared to leave vulnerable to those who are powerful and mighty in this country.
So, Mr.
It's a very interesting point you have raised, Andre.
So, yes. Mr. Jackson, just for clarity, does the banks count that? Because I know every month they publish their statements of accounts. Do they publish those monies that they would have taken from the dormancy accounts within their profit margin?
They lump them all in fees. Fees. You have
take up people money and I say a profit that in fees.
Yeah, man. The banks report their fees in basically 2 categories: interest income, and fees.
Wow.
So the fees include those and all other fees. But remember, almost half of the profit that the banks make now are from fees. It's a brother, you have to understand, the banks have become so intellectually lazy that rather than spend time and brain power to come up with creative financial instruments that can attract people to go into transaction with them from which they can earn money, they sat down and said to themselves, let us earn money from the money we already have from people who have accounts with us. It's no risk. Because they don't lend any, they take from what is already in the bank. You ever ask yourself the question, how the banks are making increased profits every year in an economy that is not growing?
Hey, repeat that. statement, Uncle Fix.
The banks continue to make increased profit out of financial transactions in an economy that is not growing. So they are able to do that because they don't have to rely upon transactions of loans. Because look, and I want to make it clear, I'm in support of banks. Every modern society needs banking for its operation. But our banks have said we don't want to spend too much time and effort assessing loan applications and monitoring loan portfolio and try to assist borrowers to make their business more productive, that they can earn profit and we can collect income from lending them monies. Once you make the money and put it in the bank and you want to use the money which you have already made, we want some of it. And they're going to take their some of it by the imposition of a myriad of fees. As a gentleman told me, if you walk into the bank these days and say hello, they're likely to charge you a fee.
So, Uncle Fix, give me a breakdown of me going into the bank and what.
Stay tuned for more PDTV News Evening Highlights. Remember to show your support. Comment, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.